Hey, JK here. I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me. For day 11 of 30 teams in 30 days, we're finally going to talk about the National League and travel up north to where the only thing thinner than the air is the margin of error for the pitchers. That's right, the Colorado Rockies. They had a record of 59 and 102 and a negative 236 run differential. No wonder they were 5th in the National League West, right? Also, the team category leaders are ones you probably never heard of, and if you did hear of them, you probably didn't draft them. For leading in at-bats, hits, doubles, and RBIs, Ezequiel Tovar. Runs, home runs, total bases, walks, and strikeouts, Ryan McMahon. Triples and stolen bases, Brenton Doyle. The household name of Brenton Doyle. And finally, batting average, on-base percentage, slugging, and on-base plus slugging, Nolan Jones. I'll tell you one thing. We're going to talk about Nolan Jones in a second, but this man literally came out of nowhere. Before we get to him, let's talk about some of the more well-known Rockies. Obviously, Charlie Blackmon is a mainstay in that outfield. He's getting older. He's on the wrong side of 30, very, very close to 40, and that's not where you want to be playing in the major leagues. However, he is still going to be a mainstay in the outfield, just not as much. He will also be playing mostly DH this year, and that is to preserve his body, but also allow him to still hit and focus on the hitting, because that's what he's best at. I remember drafting him back in the day. He was a 300-plus hitter. He'd get you the stolen bases. Those definitely aren't going to be the case anymore. He'd get you the home runs, mainly at home, and he was able to bring individuals like Tulowitzki, Carlos Gonzalez, some of those big names around that were on base. He doesn't have that luxury anymore. I do believe he will likely be hitting in the top of the lineup, maybe second, but in any case, Charlie Blackmon is absolutely a contributor who you should at least think about as a 4th or 5th type of outfielder and absolutely want to stream at home. Another guy that seemed to be there forever is Ryan McMahon. He does have 1st, 2nd, and potentially 3rd eligibility depending on what leagues you play in. And while he is going to strike out a lot, he did lead the team in walks. So he does have a decent eye. He's going to get you some runs as he does produce home runs while he's at home and can drive some people around. So he will be part of that very deep first base pool. The last veteran we're going to talk about, Elias Diaz. This catcher was named to the All-Star team and was actually the All-Star MVP. He had a great first half, batting .277 and hitting 9 home runs. The second half, his batting average did fall to just in the second half, being .254, and he only hit 5 home runs. Terrible against the lefties. I think he was batting .182. It was really, really bad. But in any case, this upcoming year, he is going to have less time behind the plate. The Rockies did sign Jacob Stallings, so they're going to have him, who's better defensively behind the plate, to give Diaz a little bit of a rest. I also do believe he will very well hit DH at times when Charlie Blackmon needs a break, but Elias Diaz will probably not be a fantasy option for you this year unless he is streaming and playing at home. So, something to think about. Now we're going to get to the new guys. I really like this next guy. He is the shortstop, Ezequiel Tovar. He is going to be an asset for many teams. Now, he's going to be better for a points league instead of a categories league because while he did lead the team in hits, doubles, and RBIs, which you wouldn't expect a 160-pound shortstop to do, especially with other individuals who had more power, like Diaz, like McMahon, like Bryant. I know Chris Bryant's kind of a lot past his prime, but hey, I mean, he still has the stroke, right? He can still get it out there, especially in thin air. But in any case, Tovar led the team in that. However, he also was second on the team in strikeouts with 166, and his walk was abysmal. He only had 25. So his on-base percentage was down. His on-base plus slugging was pretty much nothing. And, of course, his slugging was not that good. So, in any case, Tovar is going to be an asset in dynasty leagues, in points leagues. He will absolutely improve, and especially being in Colorado where there's not much other competition for shortstop there. So I really do believe he's going to be the guy. Again, in Colorado, I'm going to target him if I don't already have him in my leagues. Either scoop him up, trade for him, pick him up in the draft. But in any case, Ezequiel Tovar is definitely a man you want to look at. Next, we're going to talk about a guy who was traded right before the start of last year and came out of nowhere, really. Now, if you're a Cleveland Indians fan or Guardians fan, you are going to absolutely feel a lot of hurt in this. Nolan Jones absolutely took over and ran away with his opportunity in Colorado, not in Cleveland. So Nolan Jones was traded for Jose Brito. Both of them were high draft picks. However, Brito was hitting 300 plus in the minors and also was putting up strikeouts and walks at the same rate. Victor Martinez-esque. So obviously the Rockies were like, hey, yeah, this guy's good. But they saw something in Nolan Jones. And the Indians were like, oh, let's go get this Brito guy because we had a guy named Lindor. He's gone. Now we bring in this other guy. Let's see what he can do. Well, right now, the Rockies got the better end of the deal. So Nolan Jones in his first full year had almost a 300 batting average, hit 20 home runs, had 62 RBIs, and stole 20 bases. His on-base plus slugging was almost 600. Wow. Now, hold on, before you get to thinking, oh my gosh, let me look at this guy. Let me draft him really quick. Let me potentially use him as a keeper. Hold on. Depending on where you got him, because you probably didn't draft him, he might be worth it. However, regression is absolutely going to happen. He got really lucky, and let's remember, he's in Colorado, so some of those home runs may have had a little bit of luck, okay? Obviously, he's a 20-20 guy, could potentially be a 30-30 guy, so Nolan Jones is absolutely someone you're going to want to look at. However, when I talk about the regression, when he was in the minors, he had the opportunity to come up and play with the Indians, so the Indians called him up. Well, he had 92 plate appearances. He struck out a third of those. So, 30-plus strikeouts and 90 plate appearances, that's not great. Now, obviously, he has improved according to last year, but regression may very well also come. With power, with batting average, obviously slugging. I like Nolan Jones. I really do. I think he's going to be good. He's going to provide some pop. He's going to provide some speed, but don't think you're going to be getting Cargo. Don't think you're getting Tulo. Don't think you're getting Michael Kadire. Yeah! Those of you watching this, remember Michael Kadire? Yeah! I loved Michael Kadire. Definitely not going to be Michael Kadire for now. With experience, he very well could be. Obviously, Kadire played a long time. This is Nolan Jones' second season. So in any case, temper expectations. As much as I say to temper expectations with Mr. Nolan Jones, you absolutely positively must temper expectations with any Rockies pitcher because they're not good. Now, not that they're not good players, they're just not in a good situation. That's maybe how I should put it. They're not in a good situation because the air is thin, knees are weak, you got mom spaghetti. Oh wait, okay, wrong thing. Anyway, the Rockies pitchers are not fantasy relevant. Now I'm going to tell you some stats about the pitchers who are in Colorado. That's really just going to reiterate the fact that you probably shouldn't draft any, shouldn't have any on your team, and shouldn't hope that they're going to do anything for you, especially when they're pitching at home. Anyway, no Rockies pitcher hit the 162 inning mark. So none of them were eligible for the pitching triple crown or any of that stuff. No Cy Youngs. No Rockies pitcher had 100 or more strikeouts. Kyle Freeland had the most. Surprise. I'm going to get to the stat leaders in a second. But 100 strikeouts, no one hit it. Close one was 94. Also, no Rockies pitcher who had at least 10 starts had an ERA under 5. So every time a starting pitcher went out, you could expect 5 earned runs given up from them. Like every 9 innings. So, it's not good. It's ugly, okay? You don't need to really do the math. It's ugly. Also, the holds leader for the Rockies, so we're going to the bullpen now. The holds leader had an ERA above 4. The saves leader had an ERA above 6. Now, he was traded halfway through, so then the guy who took over did have an ERA of 3.72. It's not sexy. It's not anything you really want to look at. Will absolutely kill you in categories leagues. Will absolutely lose you points in points leagues. So, really nothing good to come from these pitchers. But if I have to tell you someone to look at, it'll be Kyle Freeland. Because Kyle Freeland did lead the team in games started, quality starts, innings pitched, strikeouts, ERA, and whip. Now, I just told you the ERA was no lower than 5. It was 5.06. That was the closest to 5 any pitcher with 10 or more starts had, okay? His whip, it was like 1.4 something. Not pretty, but he led the team, okay? So, Kyle Freeland will be your guy if you're going to look at anyone. Also, Antonio Senzatella and Jermaine Marquez. Both of them will be coming back mid-season. They will probably strengthen what is already a weak rotation, so it'll be real bad to just probably bad. So both of those guys have pitched at an all-star level. I'm not saying it was a good all-star level. I'm just saying every team has to be represented, okay? But I think they're better than some of the guys they're going to have. Another guy I would look at, I'm not real confident in him, Justin Lawrence. He did have the holds position, so he was a setup guy for Pierce Johnson before he left, and Daniel Bard before he took a leave of absence because of mental health. Lawrence is now the closer. There's some guy, Tim Kinley, something Kinley. I don't even know who he is. I would not recommend him. Justin Lawrence, I guess he's the best guy there. It's really the main guy, to be honest with you. So if you need someone in the bullpen and you're super desperate and you don't care about ratios and you have to have someone like the All-Star team, have someone from every team on your league, you can go with Justin Lawrence, I guess. Another guy, Jalen Beeks. He is also a guy in the bullpen. He worked magic when he was in Tampa Bay. He was like a secondary relief starting pitcher, or he would open up as an opener and pitch 2 or 3 innings. He got shelled a few times. I don't foresee him doing a whole lot better, especially in Colorado, but it's an option, okay? It's an option. We're thin here. We're kind of pulling at strings, okay? So now let's get to the arrivals and departures. The people who they brought in. Cal Quantrill played for the Indians last year. So one guy from the Indians did real well for him. One guy for the Indians is probably not going to do well. I've said it before. I think he's going to have a 6+ ERA easily in Colorado. Another guy they brought in, another pitcher, Dakota Hudson. Dakota Hudson played for the Cardinals. He was starter, then relief guy, then setup. I don't even know. Not great. Lots of walks. I don't think he's going to do anything better. Definitely not going to do better in Colorado than he did in St. Louis. Another individual who I think he's going to do okay. I mean, he's a catcher option. Jacob Stallings. He was the starting catcher in Miami last year. He did decent. He wasn't sexy, but he was an option. He's going to be behind the plate, kind of taking plate appearances and at-bats away from Mr. Elias Diaz. So someone to look at maybe. And then we talked about Jalen Beeks. He is one of the very few guys I would even consider. And even then, I wouldn't consider him highly. Some of the guys that left. Jurickson Profar. You might think, he wasn't even that good. He bats like 200. Yeah, well, you give him some thin air and a bat, and he hits the ball a long way. So he could be an option for you. Randall Grichuk, still the guy who was drafted by the Angels in front of Mike Trout. That's how I know Randall Grichuk. That's it. Right now, he's not with the team. Obviously, he's a departure, but he's one of those guys, carried a big stick. He could hit the ball. Didn't hit it a lot, but when he did, it was a home run. Another guy, C.J. Cron. I personally like C.J. Cron. However, too many injuries. He had to sit out too much. But when he was on, man, he was on. He was batting like 300. He was hitting 30, 40 home runs. So obviously getting the RBIs. So it's unfortunate he had to be gone. Pierce Johnson. Pierce Johnson was the holds guy. He was the saves guy at one point in time. Blew up. Got blown up. 6 ERA. Terrible looking whip. Who was traded to the Braves. So you go from like not contending to potential World Series champion. It's crazy. Pierce Johnson really got the lucky end of the stick. So overall, the Rockies offense absolutely rosterable. Nolan Jones, Ezekiel Tovar could potentially look at Mr. McMahon if, depending on how you are around the infield. I would absolutely look at Charlie Blackmon, especially if you have the option to have just a guy that you put in when at home. Like if you have a shorter roster, then obviously you're not going to be able to if you have less bench pieces. But if you have the spot for him, definitely someone to look at. We talked about some of the guys who are going to be dropping. Elias Diaz, Jacob Stallings are going to be splitting time. So not great. Chris Bryant is still on the team. Okay, cool piece of information. They're pitching. Don't look at anyone. Don't draft them. Just don't. Don't. The only thing you can do with a Colorado Rockies player is draft them for their bat. Likely at home. And hope that they get a hold to the thin air and take it a long ways. I don't foresee this team being awful, but I sure don't see them competing for any division championship, a pennant of any sort. I don't see them anywhere close. So, with that being said, we're going to be moving to the fourth best team in the National League West, the San Francisco Giants, tomorrow. So we look forward to seeing you. And if you do draft a Rockies pitcher, you deserve to lose all of your fantasy leagues. This is Jake Cake, and I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me.